Hello, Enchantress. It's Enchantress Shane, and I am here today to get really close and personal about being a doormat, a pushover, an easy go with the flow type of chick. Like I spent years doing that, and for the first time in all arenas, romantic relationships. Even family, I'm pushing the edge more about how to speak my truth in really stressful, vulnerable, or old school, old patterns of behavior. It's really not easy to say the truth. And so the hardest part for me had been in relationships, romantic relationships, when something would happen, something was said, and I automatically would get a feeling in my heart that was like, and an example would be I had just started dating a new guy. It was our second date. Things were going really well. We were just connected, right? We weren't sexual. We didn't have intimacy beyond physical intimacy yet. And it was time for the date to end. And he said, I just want to let you know that I'm really busy and that I know we connect really well, but I just can't commit to anything. And my heart went seized. And my reaction was, that's cool. I'm really busy too. And we started to walk away from each other. And then he came back and made out with me and we kissed and it was amazing. But I had this fear in my body, like, uh-oh, he's just told me he's not available. And what the fuck? But at the same time, with men, it's more about their actions than what they say. But this feeling, and it wasn't even about him at that moment, it was this feeling, this seized in my heart feeling of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to express that this man means something to me? And now I feel let down. And all I did was smile through it. Well, that's one example. So if you feel that speaking up is aggressive, this is for you, because I am here to really let you know that it's assertive, and being assertive is powerful. It's not rude. I basically was always on default by being nice. And so that meant I was going with the flow. I was always just like, sure, cool, whatever, thinking like, oh, it feels really good to be so easy to be around me. I didn't want to be a pain in the ass. I didn't want to be like a diva or demanding. Like, no, because I thought no guy would want that. Another example was, and this had to happen to me several times before I actually stood up for myself. I was on vacation or traveling to see a girlfriend, a woman friend. And, a lot of times women friends are harder relationships than men or romantic, I'll say. And so twice this happened. The third time I actually stood up for myself, but it took a long time. Basically, all three times, women friends lost their shit and were really dealing with challenging life situations while I was visiting them. The first time I was visiting a friend in Georgia, and she owned this huge house. And she had some issues with drinking. And so every night she would drink really heavily. And I drank, but it wasn't like heavily. And she would drink to the point where she would get really violent. And one night I was out with her and her boyfriend and a couple of friends. And we were at this really fancy restaurant in Atlanta. And she began drinking heavily. And I noticed it was getting a little sloppy. And she was dangerous. And she threw a glass in the restaurant and we got kicked out. And it was me and her driving home. So I quickly was like, let's call a cab. Now, this is not my hometown, so I feel really vulnerable. Like, my stuff is in her house. I've experienced and witnessed her violence before, but never this bad. Anyway, I wanted to leave. I was like, I'm done with this friendship. This has happened way too many times. So we got a car, and it actually, for some reason, they sent a limo, which was really bizarre. They sent this limo. It's like a 1990s limo, square box. We get in it. Now there's a ton of space. I pretended to sleep the whole way, which on my behalf, I'm sure was really smart. She was drunk, so what's the difference? She wasn't going to hear me. And then as we got home, she started freaking out and like calling her boyfriend and hanging up and just having all this drama. And so then we're in the limo together and we're like facing each other. I'm pretending to sleep. For some reason, I opened my eyes and she threw the phone. Now she didn't, I don't think she threw it at me, but she basically threw the phone. It's a small space. Now, the next day, I already had decided in my like not really sleeping state overnight, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not here for this. This is not safe and I don't want to be here anymore. And I really felt like she didn't want me to leave, but she was being kind of like snippy. And now she lived pretty deep in Georgia, not close to Atlanta. I had to get a car service, like all these things I had to do. And then I was like, am I just going to run out of the house? Well, I basically got all my stuff together in one area. It was really hard for me to speak up because I cared about her, but she was not in a state to hear me at night. And in the morning, even though she was being passive aggressive, she was like really letting me know how much I mean to her. And I was like, I was past the point. I mean, it was dangerous and all this stuff. So it was crazy. I threw my stuff out the window. Like, it wasn't very far down. My stuff, meaning my luggage. And I got close to the door. And when the car pulled up, she looked at me. I mean, this is straight out of the movies, but it was real. My heart was beating so fast. And I said, her name. I said, I have to go. And I'll be here for you if you want to talk on the phone. But last night I got really scared and I got really nervous. And it's not okay. And I froze. And I didn't know if there was a hug or anything. And I just like took off. I like turned my body, left the house. And she got to the door after me and was like, fuck you. And I left and we never spoke again. So that was really hard because I stand for sisterhood. I always have. So the reason I'm telling you that story is because the next story happened again. I was visiting a friend and she was subletting an apartment that I was staying in with her. And then I don't know if she wasn't paying on time or something was happening. And she was getting kicked out. And the owner of the place was like, I'm moving in tomorrow. I need you to leave. Now, I was visiting her on vacation. So, and we weren't getting along. And it's funny, as I share these stories, it's like I love sisterhood, but these are two stories that really pushed me past the point of like, I don't know what to do. So this woman we weren't really getting along because she was in a really hard place and I was being helpful, but I was in joy. I was on vacation. And so anytime I had joy, she would say like, oh, because we're broke, or, you know, we have to have this shitty life. Like, she kept saying we as me and her. And I wasn't in that place. So it's not that I wasn't there for her. It's just that she was roping me in to this alternate universe that she was living. And I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't saying anything. But there was a tension in the house. Like, I took her to lunch and I paid. And she's like, oh, well, you know, you can pay for lunch. It's nice that, you know, thank you for taking me out. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I was like being helpful, but she was shitting on me for being helpful. So I was like, I think I even tried to be angry with her. And I was like, that's not how I feel. And I've worked out of that. So anyway, so she's like, oh, well, now we have to move. Now we're homeless, she would say. Like, we have to get out of here, and maybe I could stay with this other girlfriend. Like, maybe she'll take us in. And I was like, well, we could. Now, I was doing well, but I wasn't like rolling in the dough. I couldn't stay in a hotel, but I said, why don't I look for an Airbnb for us? And she flipped on me. She was like, oh, you think you could just use money to get out of situations? What am I going to do after you leave? I have to figure my shit out. And I was like, okay. So, okay. And then I got totally freaked out because I don't like being yelled at, and she was yelling at me. So I left it, and we ended up not speaking. Now we're in the same house. Tomorrow's the day. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe she's in trouble with this landlord. And she and I go to sleep that night. I'm on the couch. She's in the room. We don't speak. We wake up in the morning. We don't speak. She tells me, we have to be out by tonight. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do some work at a coffee shop. So I take my computer and I go to this coffee shop, and I feel dread. I don't know how to help her, much less I don't know how to help myself. I'm not rolling in the dough, but I have enough money to get myself an Airbnb until it's time to leave. I don't know how to approach her. I don't know how to deal with anything. And I don't like getting yelled at. So there's so much fear in my body. I didn't sleep because I kept thinking of over and over and over, like analyzing that I'm right, she's wrong. All this shit is going on in my head. And I go to this place to do my work all day, and I'm in LA, and I find a really cool Airbnb. And it's in a place called Topanga, and I love it. And it's a tree house, and it's on a property that has other little tree houses. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. But fear comes over my body because I'm going to have to tell her what I'm doing and that it doesn't include her. Because LA is pretty far from Topanga, and she doesn't want to do just like a temporary situation, but I'm on vacation and I was coming to visit her, but she's been so mean to me. We've not been getting along, and she's having a hardship that I really can't help her for the full sustainability of it. So I book this place, and I have fear because I don't even want to walk into this place. She could be sobbing. I don't know how to deal with emotions yet. This was over 15 years ago. And I let her know that I'm going. I found a place to stay, and that I love her a lot. But right now, we can't be in the same space. And there's clearly going to be no hug. I get my stuff. I like throw it in. And I give her my blessing. And I get in my rent-a-car and I go. She automatically, this had to be 2008, she automatically takes me off her Facebook, like disconnects from me completely. We've never spoken again. And I felt after the compassion, I felt a complete relief that I could do this breakup with my homie. Like, this was a really fucking great girlfriend. And my point in telling you these long stories are, it doesn't have to get to this point. Now, for me, for some reason, I had to have these experiences while away from home, which is super vulnerable because it's like, I don't have my people. I don't have my places. I don't even have my own car. You know, it's a rental. This is their home. And so the extra vulnerability of like, what do I do next, really was the cherry on the cake. Now, I found that I got so many gifts after I did this. So the thing that happened in LA when I went to Topanga, if you've never been there, well, it was fantastic. I met amazing people. I hooked up with this autism community of parents. At the time, I was still working with children with autism. I met Robbie Krieger of The Doors at the autism event. And so many amazing things happened that week because I stuck up for myself. Now, back then, I didn't really have any tools. I was just kind of like knowing that this pattern is so obvious when I'm away with women or I'm visiting or traveling with women that I'm trapped with, that I have to speak up. And so I was really pushed to my limits because I was a softie. I was being nice. I was being supportive. I wasn't saying anything. So I was letting them just do their wild, crazy stuff. And I was just like, being nice, going with the flow. And that doesn't work. And now I might be called a pain in the ass. I don't know. But for the most part, I have learned how to, and I teach this, how to speak up for myself and advocate for myself so I'm never stuck. So I never am over analyzing situations or reliving them, and so that I get this like baggage. Like when you relive certain situations over and over and over, they become baggage. And then you take that baggage with you to the next scenario. And so if it's a guy, if it's a friend that you've had this breakup with, or you have something that you really want to be honest and tell them about, if you don't do it, that pattern, that story, that experience is going to happen again. And it's going to have different details. It's going to be a different time and place, but it will rehappen until you stand up for yourself. So the tip I want to give you on this video, which is somewhat therapeutic for me to share, and so I invite you to share your stories in the comments below of when you didn't speak up for yourself, or a celebration of when you did speak up for yourself. So that you can really own that you either want to operate like a grown-up goddess or that you have, and let us celebrate with you. And so thinking that they should know better is often a habit that happens. Like, oh, this person should know better, than just assuming that I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. And so the tip that I want to share with you is a sentence stem. It's one of my signature sentence stems, an enchanted sentence stem, because there is some magic in this, right? And there's another video on how to basically send love to an estranged friend or an estranged lover or an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend so that you can have peace. But this video is just about communication, speaking. So an enchanted signature sentence is, hearing that, so somebody says something, rah, hearing that, I feel blank. So you're sharing impact. So let me make up a little story. Two goddesses, one here and one here. And this one says, you owe me money and I fucking need it right now. And this one says, hearing that, I feel threatened and it makes me feel like you don't trust that I'll pay you back. Right? I mean, I don't know if that's such a clear story, but basically, let's use the story. Here's better. Let's use the story from the boyfriend, the guy that I dated, who ended up, he and I dated for a year after that. So he says, I just want to let you know that I am very busy and I'm not going to be available to go on a lot of dates. Hearing that makes me not want to be here right now. Oh, shit. I mean, I didn't mean it like that. I just mean that I want us to be clear about what this is. Hearing that makes me want to have a conversation about this and makes me want to stay. Okay, good. I didn't want to freak you out. I just was scared that you were going to be one of these women like my ex-girlfriend. Hearing that makes me believe that you're not over your ex-girlfriend yet. Actually, shit, you're right. I am over her, but she keeps annoying me and I don't know what to do. Hearing that makes me want to give you space so you can tell her whatever you need to tell her. Can we check in next week? Actually, that sounds great. Bye. So it's just like fostering this really deep and open and beautiful conversation and not making anybody wrong. So it's taking the place of saying, you're making me feel. So here's a shitty conversation. So I just want to let you know that I'm busy and I'm not really going to be available for the next couple of weeks. Wow, you make me feel like an idiot. Like, what am I even doing here? Right? That's extreme. But basically, you make me is bullshit, and it's codependent, and it's not even real because people don't make us do anything. So hearing that, comma, makes me feel blankety blank. And that blankety blank is what you're feeling. It could be a feeling, a sensation, or a thought. Does that make sense? I also want to know your questions and your comments. Now, I usually don't tell such long-winded stories, but I feel like those were really important. So I'd love to hear your long-winded stories in the comments. Don't be afraid to write too much. As goddesses, as enchantresses, we are too much. That's what makes us fabulous. All right, so this is Enchantress Shane signing off. I am here to share all the goodies, all the goodies, all the goodies. If you want to know something specific and you are in a place to ask a question, that would be great. I can use it in my Dear Enchantress column. And for all that I'm doing, go to enchantedembodiment.com. If you're interested in the upcoming Awkward Enchanted Coven and you are right for this program, shoot me an email at love@enchantedembodiment.com. See you soon. Bye-bye.